Look, they're important. We always have to have affordable housing. There's no ands, ifs, or buts about it. Everybody can't afford to buy a nice place. Their income isn't high enough. The state has to come in and provide some form of relief. We can argue how that relief is provided. If it's provided to the renter or the developer, we can argue through tax policy or interest rates or whatever, but there has to be some accommodation. But from everything the research seems to suggest, we need to disperse this affordable housing throughout the city. We don't want to put all the people who are low income, who have in one part of town. That creates a very bad economic dynamic. We want to expose rich people to poor people to rich people, and not force people to live in a certain part of town. We may have to some extent, but try and resist that urge as best you can. You know, when you build a tall building, you can always have the bottom floor or two, roughly speaking, for lower income people, and the higher floors with the prettier views, they're more expensive. You can sell those or rent them for higher amounts of money. There are compromises, or smaller apartments on different floors. You know, make it a 30 square meter apartment for lower income people and a 50 or 60 square meter apartment for wealthier people. There are ways to accommodate. The role of government here is important. Government should want to accommodate here. The government should want to say yes. You want to try this? Okay, let's try. The government shouldn't instinctively say no. And governments almost everywhere, city governments, almost always want to say no. No, you can't do this. No, the rule says no, you can't do that. Try. Try new things, take a chance, give people opportunity to make a new type of housing arrangement, whether it's a 5th floor or a 6th floor or a little wider or whatever it is. Whatever the architect thinks will work and sell with the developer, let him try. It's hard. Living in suburbia is lovely, but the strains and costs are large. Building roads and sewer systems and water systems to accommodate that is difficult. But if they're willing to pay the price, there's nothing wrong with it. The government shouldn't tell people where or how to live. It really should be a personal decision. How many children you have, whether you get married or not, and how you choose to live in a tall building, a small building, or a suburban house really should be your choice. If you don't build what people want, they'll move somewhere else. So we should want to accommodate them. But we can figure out better ways to help it, perhaps by building public transit along certain roads, encouraging development in certain areas. And we should also, at the same time, promote densification of cities. The central business district, the CBD, where we are right now, should go higher to the extent the water table allows. It should go as high as you can, because that brings people downtown, it makes it affordable, and it also offers a contrast to living in suburbia. Well, mortgages play a critical role for a whole bunch of reasons. One, people don't have enough cash to buy a house. So if you have to save up to buy your house, that's almost impossible. And in certain parts of the world, you have to save up 50 or 60% to buy a house. That's very hard. The more you can bring that down to 20% or 25 or 15 or whatever it is, that makes housing more possible for more people. And the more the mortgages that are created can be sold and traded in secondary markets for investors, the lower the interest rates can be. And that also makes housing more affordable. So to the extent that a developed mortgage market exists and mortgages can be traded, that's an unambiguously good thing. There's no question. It makes housing more affordable for everybody. You have to try and engineer a system to prevent over leverage and to prevent lending to the wrong people or whatever. But we shouldn't throw away the concept, the tool of mortgages and the trading of mortgages just because there was the housing disaster in the States in 2006, 7, 8 that led the whole world into a terrible recession. The key thing here is to have banks be stronger and have maybe bigger down payments, whatever. There are solutions that can be employed, and we should think hard about those solutions, but we still need a well-functioning mortgage market with investors. Oh my gosh, the role between housing and economy is absolutely critical. You need, as I mentioned in my speech, for a vibrant city, you need to attract intelligent people. You need to attract people. And people can move anywhere. Look, Russia's a big country. You can live, my gosh, you can live in almost Ukraine, right, on one end, and you can live almost in Japan at the other end. So where you choose to live depends on what kind of amenities there are, within limits. I mean, you're not going to move 5,000 kilometers just for a cheaper house. But it's important. Cities need dynamism. Cities want to grow. And to do that, you have to attract people. And the easiest way to attract people is with jobs. And if you want to get the job, you have to have a place to live. And if you can't afford the place to live, you can't move to the city. It's just not possible. So you need this role of job creation and housing creation going hand in hand, roughly. And as long as you keep doing both at the same time, you will generally be okay. But you know, as again in my speech, I talked about expensive cities like Seoul, for example, or Sydney, or Toronto, or New York City. They're too expensive. And when you get to a city that becomes too expensive, growth slows down, and you lose vibrancy. The ideas that are created in a place like New York or Seoul are really critical for the well-functioning of those cities and countries. And if population stops going up in these vibrant towns, this is a loss for the city, for the population, for employers, and for employees. If they could just build more housing, it would do a lot of good.